Hello, welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am your guide, Elpy. We are in worm farm number 1, mixed worm bin 1. This is my favorite bin. This is my first bin. This is my best performing bin. We've got 80 degree, well, no, why did I say 80? We've got more like it's dropping since I've taken it out, but it was probably 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So like 22 or something degrees Celsius. That was in the feeding zone from last time I fed in here was September 10th. I had to move my notes. So today is Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2024. And I said this is mixed worm bin number 1. The last time I was in here was 8 days ago on September 10th. Prior to that, it had been 11 days since feeding. I went back and I saw that I harvested this basically 3rd on the 21st of August. So it's been 29 days. So almost a month since wow, really? Wow. Geez, time is flying. Almost a month since I harvested that. Last week, 8 days ago, I decided to do something I don't normally do, and I just pushed the castings from over here to here, the old stuff, the stuff that needs to be harvested, which I do expect things to be borderline too wet in this bin this time. So we'll see. And so I pushed all this over here. It's probably going to make things difficult for me to manage, but we'll see. And then because I had a whole bunch of extra shredded paper, I added it there, and that's where I fed. And I fed a rather large feeding. I had frozen thawing tomatoes, beans. The beans weren't frozen. I had a cucumber, a cayenne pepper, some blueberries that had once been frozen, frozen chunks of squash, an avocado, pickles, and cucamelon. So I was gonna just let this whole side continue to break down, but then, like I said, I moved it over. And I had predicted last time that 75% of the food would, from the prior time, would have been gone, and it was actually more like 85 to 90%. However, the eggplant that was in here was unfazed. I just recorded in the once called Red Wiggler bin, but now the mixed worm bin number 3, and that small eggplant was actually that was from the previous feeding, and it was quite broken down, but it was also full of mites and potworms. So I believe that it's more likely that they digested that, especially seeing this bin. They barely, well, maybe they just had so much more food. I don't know, but I took that eggplant out and added it to the harvested castings that are going to go outside into the garden, just because it was so full of mites. I don't typically do much about mites in my bins unless I see an opportunity where they are just all over an item, then I'll take it out. Okay, and like I said, I wanted to add more paper because I had it. I wasn't going to do another large feeding in here because the feeding I had done previously was quite large, and so I said, okay, next time I'm going to ease off. Well, when I saw that they had eaten even more than I thought, I went ahead and said, never mind, I'm going to go ahead and feed even more. I'm curious. I was thinking perhaps I'll keep the shredded material over here in this corner instead of allowing things to mix up, and this torn up paper over here, and see who breaks down faster. So I think that's all I've got in my notes. This was sort of humped over more, or at least flat, and you see that it's a depression now. Which is, I've seen that before, and for some reason it's always exciting. But shall we get into the feeding zone first? Normally I don't, but let's go ahead. All right. Yesterday, I so wanted to be able to get in here, but I couldn't. So I just did like a sneak peek. Down in there, you see they're often on the edges of the bin. So that's what my shorts were about, that I was like, look at. And this stuff is damp, moist. It's, you know, you can't squeeze any water out of that. Okay, so we still have the avocado. All kinds of mites all over it. I found that worms really like avocado shells. This was an avocado that went bad before I got to it. And the worms don't seem to mess with them when they're more whole like that. So hopefully breaking that apart helps. This is a bean, which I've seen in other bins. It's not common to see that they don't break down rather quickly. This is the Brussels sprouts that have been in here for over a month. Let's just dive right down into the middle. Right away worms. Nice clitellums. Happy mature worms. Yeah, so remember I just added, okay, I just remembered too what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be collecting blue worms. This is going to be harder than I think. Probably. Okay, there's a blue worm. I want to collect 100 to 200, but I have a feeling that 100 might be tricky. I need to make sure that I'm not collecting any cocoons. So I won't add, sorry buddy, that might be a little cold. I won't add any material from this bin to that. Squeeze some of the water out just to give them somewhere to hide. Okay. All right, back to what we were doing. We're looking at these guys. I'm not going to do all my collecting on camera because I think, unless I think it's going to take too long. I'd like to, but it's also going to be, you know, I'm doing some of it now. Here's another one. They're skinny. They move differently. They tend to be bluer. This one's actually mature, so that's very good for the bin, because you can see it has a clitellum, that band. Yeah, they move. Okay, so that's 2. Guys, this is going to take a while. Okay, so we're looking for blue worms, but we're also just checking on. I see these guys kind of have a grayish tint to them today. Maybe it's 3 blue worms. Oh, good. Now, where'd you go? All right, yeah, I really don't think I'm going to collect on camera because I think that's going to be a disaster. But I'll keep my little, you know, the ones in the bottom, and then we got those 2. Make sure they don't try to get out. Okay, haha, there's a party. Let's move you guys off to the side by our little cellar spider friend. What's up, buddy? Okay, cayenne pepper is mostly intact but mushy and being eaten. Tomato skins, they always hang around. Tomato skins with potworms. Smells spicy like a pepper. Okay. I don't believe that's a, so you know it's super dark. See how yellow the end of that one's? Yeah, look, they're gone. You can barely see it. Okay. Look at this. Almost creepy. That's a cucumber. All right. Well, let's worry about picking the worms after we go through here. Let's pull some of this stuff away so I can scoop. Maybe I'll have to cut out me sort of sorting. Yeah, this stuff. Oh, wait. Be very gentle. That is a cocoon. Not a surprise that there's breeding in here. We aren't wondering if there's breeding in here, but it's still cool to see. So, this was the sidewall of material. Bulging clitellum. Yay. Okay. We're at 3 blue worms. 4. This guy's long. 5. Make sure I don't get whatever. I think that's actually a tomato seed. So 5 blue worms in there so far. Ooh, look, that's a good looking one. Oh, that's kind of hard to grab. Okay, what did I just tell you guys? I said I was just going to scoop. I'm not seeing a lot of action in terms of fun worm haul. Did you guys just... Am I giving you too much time to run away? It's very wet. It's okay with me right now. Okay, do we think this is a blue worm? Yep. It's got a yellowish color to its tail, but it's not a yellow tip. You see how skinny it is? And yet it has what looks like a clitellum, but it doesn't really bulge. So that's 6. It's kind of hard not to. 7. 8. Yeah, so no crazy parties down here. Lots of healthy looking active worms. I think I just saw another cocoon. Actually, we might have found a little bit of a party over here. Remnants of the blueberries. Here we go for some more ASMR. I've just been thinking it might be fun to try the ASMR. Look, here's a willing candidate. Alright. That's a dark colored worm right there. But see the yellow tip of the tail? I don't believe that's a blue worm. And it's really big and it has no clitellum. I don't believe that's a blue worm. I'm only going to grab what are obvious blue worms to me. This is some of the residual castings that I always leave in the bin to kind of help inoculate it. They are wet. So, we're all the way down to the bottom here. We didn't see any super crazy, I mean, a lot of worms. No super crazy fun worm parties, but it's a big space. And the food is mostly gone except for that avocado. So, lots and lots and lots of worms in here. Okay, we said we have 9 blue worms so far. This is going to take me forever to get to 100, isn't it? Trying to get blue worms. What do we think? Well, since it's a question, that's a no. So I'm at 12. See how they move compared to the blue worms. Here's a cocoon. See, he's moving along, but it's not that sort of fast, super inchwormy. And there's the yellow tip. But then again, you know, you can see there's yellow throughout their whole body, but there's a tip of, oh, it's gone now. Right. Here's our party. That guy's probably going to have a cocoon soon. See how that one's moving? I let him get away. I was watching him in the camera. 13. No. 13. 14. Yep, see how fast it moves? 15. Look at, we just keep uncovering more little parties of worms. Again, not that other worms can't move fast, but the blue worms definitely do have a distinctive movement. And they very much, I've found, act more like I'm trying to get away from you. $19. Okay, at 20, I am going to proceed with going with the rest of this check-in, and then I'm going to pick the rest of the worms out on my own. Because while I'm like, oh, I can zoom, I also don't want to use up all that space. Here's 20. Yeah, let me stretch out. They're a lot more erratic. Okay. All right, so they've dove down to the bottom. Let's go ahead and finish up with this check-in. If I see super obvious blue worms, I'll grab them. But mainly, we're just here to see how this new material treated, how the worms enjoyed it or didn't. $21. And I say they like it. They like it a lot. And they ate. This is a nice specimen, I'd say. Not you. Very nice. Look at that color compared to some of the others. Nice clitellum. Great iridescence. Wow. $22. Okay. So we're going to put all the shredded paper back. What are you? 23. Back in this spot. 24. Today, we have an excellent feeding for these guys. It is not the planned feeding, but rather I got a melon this weekend at this last weekend at a farmer's market, and 25. It was it's a gold in gold, and I was sadly not impressed with the flavor. And yes, guys, I'm going to give both halves of that oblong melon to this bin. I know. Just wait till you see it. But before I forget, we're going to put 26. We're going to put the avocado. So they ate 80% of their food easily. 80 to 90%, I would say. Okay, we're going to put that back. All our shredded paper is going back. We're at 26 blue worms. So another cocoon. 26 blue worms. I'm going to dump a little bit of water because the stuff on top, I would like to be more moist. Ooh, my experiment to see what breaks down faster. I don't know if I'm going to do that after all, actually, because, well, I really don't need to add more material. I have material, though, and I want to add it. I might add it just to cover the top. Anywho, okay, so we're at 26 blue worms. Let's dive into the old stuff just to see what it's looking like. Let it breathe a little bit. I know that's a worm, but did it fall in there from me messing everything around? No, it does appear there are some worms down in here. It is, as expected, mucky down there. A little bit of a stagnant smell. It's sort of a sulfur rotten egg smell. I know that's not great. So all the better that we're stirring this up. So there are some worms in there. No standing water. That would have actually surprised me. But it is rather wet. So let's kind of turn it over. Let's try to put more of the top stuff down below. I'm going to need to watch this closely, and I'll probably harvest this sooner than later because of my experiment with pushing it over and just, it's going to be so bunched up. Okay. 26 blue worms. All right. Now we're going to get into the old. Well, that was the old stuff, but the first harvest. So far, oh, there's a couple of worms. I think I saw a cocoon. No, I don't see it. 26. Yeah, they do have yellow on their tail. That's a blue worm. 27. That moves like a young blue worm. Well, that moves like a blue worm, but it's very small. Oh, he's not running. 28. I think this guy over here is a blue worm that might be ready to drop a cocoon. I would like to actually take him with me. A lot of worms in here, see, all this stuff is their castings, largely of this paper. Yeah, so there's still a whole lot of worms in here. Okay, there's the guy I'm going for. Very bulgy. Go tell him. No. It's not a blue worm. It's a very bluish color. There's way less blue worms than there are. That's a blue worm. $29. I see a cocoon. That little green looking thing. Great worm population. Don't see mites in here like I do in the other bins. Look at this. This one is barely being touched. Versus, I'm going to try to puncture it with my finger. Versus in the other bin that it was devoured by the mites. Oh, there is standing water down here. Oh, yes. Wow. Look how many worms are down there, though. It smells like peas. Like split pea soup. $30. $31. See how wet that is? I don't think that's a blue worm. But it moves. Yeah, see how yellow? It's a very yellow tip. But it moved kind of inchwormish. Okay, we're at 31 blue worms. And we have found it's quite wet down in this bottom corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the stuff from higher up and just drop it down there. Because you see, this is also a lot more like castings. So this stuff is going to stay up on top. And we'll put, all right. We'll just kind of shift. I mean, then again, you know, on the other hand, it's always interesting because I'm like, well, the worms were down there and they like that. I don't really want that standing water. That's not a good thing to have in the bin. But at the same time, I shouldn't do what I just did, which was just leave the mushy stuff on top because the worms are still in it. So I'll just sort of flip them down. They won't stay super mushy, but they'll still be sort of buried, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I've sort of really crowded this bin. I'm not worried about it, but in terms of my managing, it's kind of a mess, if I'm being honest. Okay, now I know we didn't get into the middle. Let's just go ahead and just move this party on. You see, this stuff's really broken down for what I say the 21st. So within a month of harvesting. Again, I do leave some castings behind, but did I have some shredded back then? Some shredded got in there. I think I'm going to change my mind about seeing how leaving that corner shredded and the other. I'm not going to do that. We already know that shredded is going to break down faster. I am just going to let shredded be everywhere. I keep coming across this rotten egg smell, and I know it's got to be from the moisture. Now that's the thing about my other bins that I've witnessed some die off is that a lot of adult mature worms in here, by the way. That if I have these situations, let's say if I don't check in, but let's see, moisture, standing water, there's worms in it, but if I wasn't checking in, but every month or so, then I might check in and discover standing water and it's been like that for a while, long enough to, I don't know, maybe poison their environment. Or I check in and everything looks okay, but it wasn't. Very yellowtail, so I would say this is not a blue worm. It's not. I'd be better off finding blue worms in the worm bin number 2, since this bin is kind of in transition, what with the new material and all. Yeah, super wet down there, but again, I'm not seeing as many blue worms in the super moist. The wet. This is not super moist. This is wet. This is soggy. I'm definitely, yeah, you can hear the water. I'm kind of digging into the middle more. That's that biodegradable glove. Yeah, I'm seeing there's a cocoon. So wet is okay, but not prolonged and not standing moisture. We don't want standing moisture. Yep, and again, I'm not seeing as many blue worms, so that's an interesting thing. The papers I have are wet. All right, so we need to, do I go ahead and, yeah, I think what I need to do, since it's so wet. Now I have so much paper in here. I found another blue worm when I paused, by the way, because I was thinking. So I went ahead and grabbed a rather large, well, hopefully I didn't take my spider with me, for his sake or her sake, rather large handful of totally dry paper. Because if I'm going to add these melons, and I already have wet, which I do want to keep them breeding, but that's a little extra in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, oh, I feel weird. Hopefully, no, they'll find their way through that dry if it gets too dry. I was worried that I just put them, moved worms over from the previous section where all the worms are and put them on top of dry. And I'm like, oh, they're going to crawl into the dry and die. And I'm like, no, because that dry, there's enough wet material in here that should absorb moisture pretty quickly. Plus, I am still, I know a lot of you might disagree with this, but I'm still going to add wet paper. And I've actually got a little bit of torn, not shredded, mixed in here. I'm going to sort of kind of squeegee it out as best I can with the way the situation is. I just dropped a bunch of it. We're going to put that on top as well. And check this out. This is going to be crazy. So it's not a huge melon, but that's a lot. All right, let's start placing our bets. What do you think? Let's move our little blue worm bin. What do you think about how this is gonna shape up in terms of how much they're gonna eat, how fast they're gonna eat or not eat? I think I shouldn't go more than 9 days next time due to the moisture situation in here. Keep it oxygenated, because that smell is the sign of anaerobic activity. That is bacterial activity low or lacking in oxygen. It's not exactly, probably not the exact definition, but I know I'm close. And I know I turned these guys over and said I didn't want to do the whole turn them over super wet and leave them on top, but I'm doing it. So we're going to put the other half, I guess, in the feeding zone where we just were, sort of in between the two. I know we're going to get fruit flies, for real, for real. And a whole lot of moisture. So we'll take, I'm just going to forcefully sort of screw things up around here. Okay. Actually, sorry guys, I've definitely disturbed your peace today. It's way more exposed than I want it to be. All right. Well, this was an interesting check-in. Not super exciting because as you saw, I'm very distracted by the blue worms and my need to catch them. It does feel like catching them, doesn't it? As well, just the overall situation. We had a little bit of paper this time. They've eaten most of the last feeding. It's not plastic. This is also supposed to be biodegradable. This is from at least a year ago. Keurig pods. So, should be super interesting. I think in 7, 8 days time, I think that they will be 70 to 80% of the way through those melons. Let's say 75, because there is still that avocado in there. Now, yeah, I'm going to reach for 75, 80. My brain is saying, 70, I'm going to push it to 80. So, we really got to get this stuff out. You see, this bin is very, very full, which I've had it before, and I kind of love that. And you see that the worms do go down. You know, that's up to my, so that's got to be like, what, 8 inches? Or 6 inches? Probably more like 6 inches. And they do go down there, especially if it's moist. So, recap. We've got 32 blue worms so far from this mixed worm bin number 1. The conditions down below on the first harvested side are too wet. The worms are in the water and they like it. Yeah, here's a worm that definitely is going to have at least a cocoon soon. The worms are breeding. We've seen quite a few cocoons, lots of mature worms, swollen clitellums. So I think that the worms are the worms are enjoying the conditions overall, but I still can't let that stay that wet so long. So was that enough dry material to absorb the moisture that's there and the melons? I don't know. We will find out. Next time, if we're still dealing with the smell and the wet conditions, then I might just harvest these and then pick through them long before they're ready. But I'm going to add nothing but dry material next time if we're still dealing with the smell and the really wet conditions, even though I want them to breed, because again, this is the only old material. And it is 6 inches of it, but so I do want them to breed in the new stuff. But I still, I still have to maintain the health of the bin. Yeah, so I'll add nothing but dry next time. If it's really wet, if it's wet but not really wet, more like wet moist, then cool, we'll keep adding already wet food and material as needed. And yeah, so this was the 18th of September. Ooh, my battery's getting low. 18th of September, 2024, worm bin number 1. 8 days after the last feeding, large feeding, they ate 90% of it. And there's a lot of goodness going on in here. A huge population. This is my 5th year doing this. I still have so much to learn. I do a lot of stuff wrong. I experiment a lot. Well, not a lot, but like, I'm just sort of all over the place with how I do things. My population is very good, especially considering the material, the depth of the material, and just the overall volume. So, yeah. I'll see you in 8 days. Well, I'll be back. Anyways, stay tuned. I'm going to go charge my phone and gather more blue worms from the neighboring mixed worm bin number 2. But today, this population is doing very well. They are eating like champs. Let's push this over a little bit. Put a little bit more. Yeah. I'm going to have to edit this down a bunch or speed a bunch of parts up. But thank you so much for your time, for your interest, because right now I'm at 54 minutes and there's no way I'm going to post this 54-minute long video. I appreciate you very much. Be safe, be well, and bye for now.